today is going to be about giving an overview about the FIWARE vision and value proposition, how it's helping to build the smart future. And this session is divided into three parts. First of all, we will devote some time in better understanding the overall FIWARE vision and what is the concept behind FIWARE. Second part will be going more into the details of what it means building powered by FIWARE solutions, solutions that help to solve concrete challenges in different sectors, but also helping to organizations into smart organizations. And last but not least, we are going to present a little bit what FIWARE means going beyond the technology. Because FIWARE, as you will see, is not just technology, it's about creating a sustainable ecosystem that brings open opportunities to everyone, creating smart solutions in different sectors. The presentation will be followed by a question and answers part. So what I suggest is that if you have any questions, don't hesitate to write them on the chat. And therefore, after the presentation is finished, we will go a bit through the different questions and pick some of them and give some answers. The session is recorded because we want to reuse this material, make it public on the web, so everyone can go through it, and hopefully will be an interesting material for understanding what is FIWARE and get initiated in the FIWARE venture. So let's start understanding a bit what FIWARE is, the history, and what is the rationale why the FIWARE initiative was created. We are in the middle of a digital revolution that will transform the daily life of people and businesses. We are experiencing how everything that can be connected is getting connected, and now generating a bunch of data, big data that now we want to analyze, and in order to improve the daily process of individuals and businesses. It is not the first digital revolution we have experienced. You know, I'm very much connected to the web. There has been other two previous revolutions, digital revolutions. One related with the e-business transformation, when companies gain a presence on the internet, and that digital revolution radically transformed the way companies connect to their customers and their partners or even employees. And this was all facilitated by the web technology. The second revolution was about bringing individuals the opportunity to have a presence and identity on the web, on the internet. Also about radically transforming the way individuals were interacting. And now that these individuals and businesses both are present on the internet, the next digital revolution, the revolution where we are in, is really about improving the processes of both individuals and businesses. Businesses, because the daily life processes have to do with their operations. An interesting aspect we and I'm trying to okay. An interesting aspect, if we analyze previous revolutions, is that there was a major difference in terms of platform technologies being used. The e-business revolution was really experiencing a boost thanks to the LAMP stack. LAMP, for those who didn't know, comes with the meaning of Linux, Apache, MySQL, and PHP, and it was the very popular technology stack that helped businesses, help SMEs, all kind of companies to be able to develop web portals, to create those channels that were transforming the way companies were connecting to their customers or partners. However, the Web 2.0 revolution was characterized by a bit the dominance of a number of platform providers, and who are the hyperscalers of the internet today. And this is a bit not that much helping to create business opportunities for everyone. So when FIWARE was started with the intent of creating opportunities for everyone, and really go for creating a technology stack, an open source technology stack, same as it happened with LAMP, that would help development of smart solutions. The idea is that opportunities that will come are connected to helping business to digital transform, opportunities that should not be just at the hand of the big corporates, the big integrators. Also SMEs, entrepreneurs should be able to capture these opportunities because the basic software stack and technology that will enable them to capture those opportunities will be open source and free. We are talking about smart solutions. So first of all, I think it's important to stop for a second to understand what it means and what is the substantial characteristic of any kind of smart solution. In the smart digital life of the future, everything gravitates around management of context data. Data that describes what's going on at any time, where, who is doing things, and what is the rationale behind what is happening. Actually, the smart solutions are generally following a very basic pattern, which is that of capturing information from many different sources to build what we typically refer as a digital twin representation of the real world. And that digital twin representation is also referred as context. And once this information is captured and this way of representing the real world is facilitated, then that information will be constantly analyzed and processed to bring support to the further automation of certain process, or to bring support to smart decisions. So those smart decisions and those automated actions can, of course, impact in the world and change that state of context, which will be reflected again in this digital representation, digital twin representation that we manage in any kind of a smart solution. Therefore, creating a sort of a feedback loop which is in a sense the very basic pattern of any kind of a smart solution. What is interesting and actually was a bit the basics why FIWARE was created is that there is no standard way or there was not a standard way to represent digital twins or represent information describing what is context. And actually FIWARE precisely come as a created framework of open source components that gravitate around a new open standard for context data management, supporting this digital twin representation of the world, and bringing components around and connect us with different other technologies that will help to create the different smart solutions of the future. How we model context, how we deliver this digital twin representation in FIWARE. Very simple way, by means of identifying entities that are characterized by attributes whose values change over time. A very simple and intuitive model because we believe simple is beautiful. So, and a very broad and general purpose model, which really can work in different domains. So if we are talking about the cities, we are talking about entities like a shop or a bus, the citizens themselves, each of them being characterized by attributes. Some of them might be quite dynamic, like for instance, the speed of the bus. Some of them might be still dynamic, but not change so frequently. Like for instance, it could be the ID of the driver of that bus, because it may change perhaps, let's say, twice per day. And some of other attributes are pretty static, like it could be the license plate of that given bus. No matter what kind of nature, whether more dynamic or more static, the point is that by means of collecting information regarding the values of all these attributes by the different entities, we are able to create a digital twin representation of the city. Entities would typically link to objects in the real world. Again, the shop or a given citizen and a bus are good examples, but it may be related to some digital entity or concept, like for instance, incident claim that might be issued by the citizen. That is again also an entity which has a digital twin representation. The claim is made up of attributes like, for instance, it may have associated allocation because it might be linked to certain issue that has happened in a concrete place in the city. You may attach a photo as an attribute. Of course, the citizen who has issued the claim, if he wants to, might be registering his identity and so on and so forth. This is perhaps nothing that is physically present, but is something that is real, has a real identity. And the fact that a claim has been issued by a given citizen at a given moment means that the context, the status of this digital twin representation of the city has changed, and perhaps decisions have to be taken considering that this claim was created in the city. That applies to many other domains as a concept. So we may have agri-food domain, we may have energy, the domain. The entities are, of course, different, and their attributes, some of them might be common to different domains. So as an example, I may think about weather measurements and understanding the weather and attributes like what is the temperature, humidity, and so on. This might be relevant for both cities and agri-food, so therefore the notion of reusability of data models is also quite relevant. And of course, other sectors like manufacturing, where we are talking about the transport robots that might be working in the shop floor, where I may deal with doors that needs to be open and closed, the operators, palletizer robot, and stuff like this. So first idea we bring with FIWARE is that we came with a way to model context, to model and represent, have a digital representation of the world. And the second core aspect, very much connected to this one, about context and modeling, is the API. The FIWARE NGSI API. FIWARE NGSI stands for Next Generation Service Interface. And it was an API that was designed by the FIWARE community to bring access to context information. It's a simple yet powerful public royalty-free open API that allows applications to provide updates on context and also consume context information. We say it's simple because at this moment there is a RESTful binding that any programmer learns how to use in just one day. Yet powerful because it incorporates a number of very powerful features like ability to subscribe to get notified whenever a change happens in context. For instance, I may want to know and receive a notification whenever the buses in this given area go over a certain speed. It supports geo-queries, and it supports also federation and advanced concepts like linked data. This API was designed within the FIWARE community. We created a first version of the API, which is called NGSI version 2, which was created over time and with the experience of a number of systems that were developed using the API. And in 2018, we pushed for promoting the adoption and the evolution of this API as a formal standard within an organization called ETSI, the European Standard Organization. And this ETSI organization in 2019 published what is now the current release of the API, which is named as NGSI LD. LD coming from as an acronym of linked data. Typically in an architecture powered by FIWARE, there is a core component, which is typically referred as context broker, which is offering an endpoint, well-defined endpoint on the internet or the local network, through which you can perform different kind of queries and requests using the NGSI API. One important concept with regards to context broker technology and NGSI is that the fact that you are querying into that endpoint and getting values, or you are updating information about what is the value of the speed of a given vehicle. Doesn't mean that this context broker server is holding that information. What is important for applications that interact with the endpoint that offers the NGSI API is that you can perform queries and get access to context information. You can subscribe to get notified whenever certain changes in context happen, or you can update on context. Where that information is stored is something you have not to deal with. The context broker server will find the way to make sure that your request is served. That means, therefore, that, for instance, the storage technology is something that, I mean, the API is not bound to any particular storage solution or technology, nor any particular message brokering technology, nor anything like that. That is one of the advantages of this API. One of the advantages that it comes when such kind of API is defined is that IoT becomes quite more simpler to program because the whole idea is that the value of attributes associated to entities in your system, which may be related to a given sensor, are obtained just making a simple request using a REST API. What is the specific IoT protocol that at the end of the day is used to get that particular value is something the programmer will be abstracted away. Similarly, I may need to perform actions on a device, and I will not have to deal with the specific IoT protocol that that device is exporting for actuation. I will simply change the values of some of the attributes of the digital twin representation of the world, and this will create as a side effect some actuation of the corresponding device, therefore creating the kind of action that I'm looking for. This, of course, comes because as part of the platform, we bring a number of components that helps to transform between the different IoT protocols that exist today, like OPC UA or MQTT or lightweight M2M or LoRaWAN sort of IoT protocols, and will perform the necessary translation into FIWARE NGSI. Therefore, making the whole development of IoT solutions quite more simple. Another advantage of defining such a standard API is the fact that if we have the same API across different sectors, then therefore this will be boosting development of innovative services that could combine data coming from different organizations, like the cities, like the smart ports, or even the smart factory, and help to create a wide range of new digital services that were not facilitated before. Of course, this way of sharing data across organizations is something that has to be governed through the proper authorization and access control policies, and that is part of what also FIWARE brings as a solution. Last but not least, in the future, and that is part of the FIWARE vision, organizations publishing and sharing part of the data they manage will be able to monetize that data and therefore support the development of data economy. At this point, you may agree this looks everything promising and also quite common sense. But why FIWARE? Or what will give you a bit trust that relying on FIWARE, you are taking the best decision? Well, I would say it's very important. The NGSI standard has been endorsed at global level by a number of different organizations, and this portfolio is growing. Here I'm mentioning a few of them. So ETSI, as I mentioned, has been the world-class standard organization that adopted NGSI as basis for context information management. Within Europe, I think it's worth mentioning the Connecting Europe Facility program. This is a program launched by the European Commission that intends to identify technologies that are recommended to be used by not only public administrations, but also companies in the private sectors to bring support to creation of digital services that can be replicated in different member states. And they have adopted FIWARE context-blocked technology and NGSI-LD as the basis. GSMA, the global organization gathering together all the mobile operators, has defined a reference architecture for IoT big data enabled systems, and NGSI becomes the core API to be used for integration of the different components in that reference architecture. TM Forum, last but not least, is an organization with which we are collaborating since quite a number of years. They are recommending NGSI as one of the APIs for supporting contextual access to context information in cities, and we are working with them together in defining standard data models for different domains. We are partnering with a number of organizations in different industries. In the area of manufacturing, it's worth mentioning the partnership we have with organizations like the International Data Space Association, where we are combining the IDS technology with FIWARE to bring support to trusted data sharing. The work we are doing regarding technologies like OPC UA, which is integrated nowadays within the FIWARE technology stack, or with the ROS Robotics open source initiative, since part of the technologies developed in FIWARE are an integral part of the ROS operating system. Also, partnerships that are relevant in the area of smart cities, and here perhaps to highlight the collaboration we have with the Open and Agile Smart Cities initiative that brings together more than 130 cities in all around the world, which have agreed to adopt a number of what they referred as minimum interoperability mechanisms, of which a very important element is precisely the NGSI API. FIWARE context-blocked technology is the core component of the architecture, but FIWARE is not just that technology. FIWARE brings a curated framework of components which can be assembled together and with other third-party platform components to accelerate the development of smart solutions. What is true is that the core and mandatory component in any powered by FIWARE platform or solution is a context broker supporting the NGSI API. Nowadays, version 2 and soon NGSI LD, the standard. There are several actual implementations of the context broker technology as part of FIWARE. So even for that element, you have different options. FIWARE is not about take it all or nothing. You are not forced to use all the components in this suite of components. You will be able to pick different components and combine them with your favorite products and platform components. They are connected with some of the most popular open source ones, and with this be able to build your own Powered by FIWARE platform. The only mandatory requirement is that there is a core component, which is the context broker supporting NGSI, and that NGSI is the integration API you use for the integration of the different components and the basic API for applications to manage data. This is just an enumeration of several components of the FIWARE platform, and along the different webinars that are going on every Wednesday almost, you will have the opportunity to learn more about each of these components. We are planning to run dedicated sessions for each of these components so you can learn and dive in on the features that each of them offer and how they can help you to develop your solution. Everything is available, of course, on our website. I suggest you to visit us, and particularly if you are interested in the more technical details, connect to the developer.fiware.org. And of course, we are also on GitHub because everything in FIWARE is free and open source. Now let's go into the second part, trying to elaborate more in what it means building smart solutions powered by FIWARE. We have to distinguish between two perspectives. One is how you can use FIWARE to create concrete vertical smart solutions, like it could be, for instance, a smart waste management solution for a city, or a smart watering solution for a farm, or a smart welding solution for a factory. But also it's being used to deal and cover the entire transformation, digital transformation of organizations, transforming them into smart organizations. Therefore, FIWARE is instrumental in building the vision of what is a smart city, what could be a smart farm or a smart factory. So let's start with vertical smart solutions. And this is typical reference architecture that you can follow and use when building a given smart solution. Here we are illustrating as an example a smart waste management vertical application that is trying to cope with the efficient management of how waste is gathered in a given city. And you see this architecture is as any architecture of a vertical smart solution powered by FIWARE, structured in a number of layers. So going from bottom up, we have a first layer which has to do with capturing the data. Data coming from sensors, coming from cameras, coming from other systems, and FIWARE brings components that help you to perform this data acquisition and perform the basic transformation into NGSI representation, digital twin representation. That is precisely the second layer of the architecture, where the context broker is offering management of data and this digital twin representation of those entities that are relevant for your application space. And on top of that, a number of components enable data processing, analysis, and visualization, which are the last layer on top of which the applications are created. Going across the different layers, of course, there is identity management and access control that is supported to ensure that the data that is accessed at every moment is accessed by the parts of the application that have the right credentials. That applies to any other domain. So if I go to a smart farming solution, like it could be a solution solving, dealing with smart watering, we would have a similar structure because again, the architecture, the vision, how you would design a Powered by FIWARE solution is the same. We will have a dedicated webinar in the coming months focusing on going into the details of this reference architecture on what could be the role that the different parts of this architecture will play. This is essentially the same way to represent the same figure. So I'll just 90 degrees picture to vision that FIWARE brings and what the context broker technology enables is to create a systems of systems vision of your organization. Typically in your organization, you will need to integrate data coming from different subsystems, each of them solving a particular challenge, but you want to build a holistic picture of what is going on at organization level and be able to monitor and be able to make more smart decisions by means of merging data coming from different verticals, breaking the silos, and therefore be able to exploit information at large. This leads to an architecture that looks to certain extent similar to the one that we were displaying before for individual vertical applications. Why? Because again, the context broker technology is the central part around which everything gravitates. Is where you would be bringing access and managing access to information describing what's going on in, for instance, a city, which is what this slide is displaying, and where the entities, digital twins representing the relevant information is getting represented. There are, again, layers capturing data from sensors, from cameras, but also from vertical solutions. Some of them might be powered by FIWARE, and this is the reason why you see here some arrows that are directly connecting the systems with the context broker, because the context brokers can be federated, as we mentioned. And then on top of that is where you can develop the kind of operation centers that exploiting information and overall the whole history stream of data since context evolves will be able to support smart decisions by the city. Part of this information can be something that the organization wishes to share and publish to third parties. And FIWARE brings components that easy this publication, and furthermore allows you to be able to monetize data you may wish to share with other parties. Of course, publication and monetization is subject to, again, strict authorization and access control, which becomes one of the ingredients in this target architecture. An architecture that applies when I'm talking about an overall farm management system, which needs to integrate otherwise silos systems that are solving concrete challenges by the farmer, like watering, silo management, field zoning, livestock management. All these different systems now with the Powered by FIWARE architecture can be integrated to generate an holistic picture. Same for factories and for other entities and organizations. Actually, FIWARE for organizations are, as we say, bringing them support to transform into more smart organizations. This is a transformation journey that goes through a number of steps, and FIWARE is driving the standards that are helping organizations to move from one phase to the other in this transformation. First, starting with breaking the information silos. Second, by creating a market together with other organizations by means of defining common information models. Third, supporting open innovation by means of exposing part of the data that the organization holds. And last but not least, enabling or participating in a data economy by means of sharing data and why not monetize part of the data. I will skip some slides for the sake of time, and also because there will be a dedicated webinar on this transformation journey, elaborating on the different aspects. To now go to the last part and elaborate a bit on what FIWARE is bringing beyond the technology. We are trying to build a community and ecosystem around the technology and fostering opportunities for all. Two elements I want to highlight in this part of the presentation. There are other elements, but today we are going to focus on two. One is the FIWARE Marketplace. So one of the instruments we decided to put in place some time ago was creating a space where any company that has developed a solution or a platform and wants to commercialize that will be able to showcase what they are doing. It's not an app store, so we do not intermediate or interfere in how this commercialization takes place. It's just a catalog where we want to, give the opportunity to people to learn what is there, what different organizations are offering, and hopefully also bringing those organizations the opportunity to get reached by potential customers or potential partners. There are different elements in this marketplace and how it's organized. We consider Powered by FIWARE solutions or platforms that are part of the marketplace. These are solutions of platforms which have the FIWARE context broker technology as a core element in the architecture of the systems. There are FIWARE-ready systems and devices. These are elements which might not be created with an architecture based on FIWARE, but are exposing interfaces that make it easier to plug and play these systems, like for instance, IoT devices in any Powered by FIWARE architecture. Last but not least, we are giving opportunity to companies that are offering services around FIWARE, like for instance, training and coaching or consultancy and integration services. So marketplace.fiware.org is a place we suggest you to visit to learn more about what people is doing with the technology. The second vector I wanted to elaborate about are the FIWARE iHubs. FIWARE iHubs are digital innovation hubs, which are kind of our evangelists in a given region. They are entities, organizations that really believe in the FIWARE mission and value proposition and are trying to foster adoption in a concrete region in the world, and are building and providing a number of services to the ecosystem that they are supporting around the technology. There are a number of services that a FIWARE iHub can provide. Here is a short summary of this. I would like to invite you to attend and check when the upcoming webinar on FIWARE iHubs will take place to learn more about what it means to become a FIWARE iHub. If you are a digital innovation hub, definitely this is a webinar you should attend. What is FIWARE iHub providing in summary is first of all a physical hotspot where you can meet people that is working on FIWARE, where you can network and connect and participate in the local community that is flourishing around FIWARE in the region where the FIWARE iHub operates. It's a school, so the organizations that run FIWARE iHubs typically deal with training and coaching, bringing support to companies that want to use the technology and understand the benefits. It's a lab because one of the missions that the FIWARE iHub has, and one of the things they can do is to validate powered by FIWARE solutions or FIWARE-ready systems that can be then published on the FIWARE marketplace. They also may offer capabilities for testing your solution, etc. Is also a business mentor in a way, because many of these FIWARE iHubs are going to help or engage in helping SMEs and entrepreneurs in their local regions in their go-to-market using FIWARE technologies, so helping them to get in contact with potential customers, to also be present and at relevant fairs and so on. And last but not least is they are in a way the community creators at the local level, because all behind FIWARE iHubs is really about thinking globally but acting local. The FIWARE Foundation, to end up this presentation, is the non-profit organization that is here to serve the needs of the FIWARE community and support all its members in not only developing the technology, but helping create a sustainable ecosystem that bring opportunities to all. Last slide is a summary of what I have tried to bring as a message in this presentation, and what summarize what FIWARE brings to you. First of all, technology that is free for all, forever. Open source components that have been curated through real projects. Also, information models that you can combine with the technology to create interoperable and replicable solutions, following an inclusive approach, because everyone who wishes to contribute their technology to FIWARE are more than welcome. And a compelling roadmap where we are integrating the latest trends like blockchain, artificial intelligence, robotics, and so on. I invite you to come and attend to the next webinar, where I will be elaborating on the roadmap and some of these aspects about evolution of FIWARE that is going on. A growing ecosystem around the technology, which has a good mirror in the FIWARE marketplace, where a number of companies are creating powered by FIWARE solutions, FIWARE-ready systems, providing services, and again, where this FIWARE marketplace is trying to help as an instrument for promotion. A vibrant community engaged in the success, not only involving the people and the developers that are contributing to the technology, but also organizations and individuals that are helping to spread the word and deal with training, foster adoption, and here the network of FIWARE Hubs plays a quite important role, as well as the FIWARE evangelists. And last but not least, a foundation which was born just with the intent to help the community to grow and achieve its objectives, an objective towards creation of a smart digital future. Dream big because it works, as our Lima, and now I hope you have enjoyed this presentation. We can now go to perhaps see some questions. Some people is asking for you. By the way, you can